Hey, what's up YouTube? My name's Cameron Doherty here with another tech video. So Pela is a company that makes environmentally friendly, compostable cell phone cases for all your favorite devices. This is one that I've had for about 2.5 years, and here is a brand new one. We're gonna talk about both, find out how it's held up over time, and take a look at what you can buy today. So before we unbox the new one, I'm gonna put it aside for right now and just talk about this one that I've had for 2.5 years. Now, I was kind of on a mission when I bought this. I was hoping to find a more environmentally friendly cell phone case. So at this point, I had owned a few different smartphones over the course of my life and had already bought and thrown away several phone cases. I had watched people around me purchase phone cases, use them, decide they want to freshen it up and buy a new one and create just tons and tons of waste. At the same time, I was reading articles about how insane amounts of plastic and plastic waste are generated each year just from cell phone cases. Just think about you personally. How many cell phone cases have you had? And all of those probably were made of some form of plastic and wound up getting thrown away. So that's where this came in. I was searching for what else was out there and I found Pela. And so Pela advertises themselves as environmentally friendly and compostable. So to me, it piqued my interest immediately. And I said, you know what, let's take a chance on this. Let's give it a go. And hopefully I like it. Obviously, a direct-to-consumer business like this, I'm buying it online. I've never felt this before. I've never had a friend or anybody that's had one. So I just took a leap of faith and I went for it. And honestly, I was really worried when I first got it. I liked the feel that it's a little bit textured. It's kind of squishy-ish without being like really squishy, if that makes sense. So like it's solid and it's gonna protect it, but it's not anything crazy. It's not like a life-proof case that it will withstand the craziest drops around. But for just daily bumps and drops and things, it's totally fine. But what I was worried about is, okay, this is compostable. So phones go through all sorts of stuff. They get wet, they get dirty. There's all sorts of things that happen over the life of a cell phone. And I was really paranoid about, is it going to just erode away? Like I'm holding it in my hand, it's going in my pocket, my hand gets dirty, my hand is wet. What's gonna happen over time? And honestly, nothing. This is 2.5 years of wear, and other than it getting a little bit smoothed out and kind of shiny in places where it's worn away, it's really held up really well. Looking back and thinking back, it's one of those things where as I'm using it, I have this like in the back of my mind, like, oh, it might start to deteriorate. And it got to the point where all of a sudden I looked back and said, wow, it hasn't. It's in great shape. I mean, you can see the Pela logo on the bottom here, which is kind of recessed. Like even that, like you could tell if it had worn away, that would have been much more flush with it, but it still looks basically like the day I got it. And so for that reason, when I was looking for a phone now for an upgraded iPhone 13, I said, why not go back to Pela? And so what I'm gonna unbox today is a new version of this case in a different color for a new device. And there's one other trick up its sleeve, because though iPhone 11 didn't have MagSafe, iPhone 13 does. And we're gonna look at what Pela's solution for that is as well. So let's get this opened up. And the first thing that I wanted to call out, I think this is really cool. This is a pre-labeled package here to send back your old phone case. And so across the bottom it says, use this resealable envelope to send us your old phone case. If someone else made the case, we'll recycle it. If we made it, we'll compost it. And I think that's pretty freaking cool. So you can just use this to send it back. I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna send this back to them or compost it myself. But either way, I think that's pretty sweet that they give you that option. It's also very clearly environmentally friendly packaging here. It's all just paper, cardboard material. So you can see there's a sticker there so that you can reseal it and send it out. It's very cool. So what we have here is the stormy blue color. And so let's get a first look at that. It's a little bit lighter than I was expecting. I thought it was a little bit darker based on the pictures, but that could just be me remembering wrong. But overall, it's a pretty cool color. It's got the same exact texture, so it's like very similar to the older version, a little bit different on the buttons. And so it's a slightly different case, but ultimately the same in spirit, if you will. So let's see, it says, thank you for helping us create a waste-free world. There's more information you can follow on their website. When you're done with your case, place it in your home compost, place it for collection in municipal compost programs, or send it back to us for composting or recycling. So very cool. I love the concept. And I wish that there was more companies that were taking initiatives like this, because we have a whole lot of waste in the tech industry and we need to kind of start moving away from that. So this brings me to what's different and what's interesting about this particular case. So as I mentioned, iPhone 11 did not have MagSafe technology yet. And so you can see that the back of the case is just completely flush. It was just a normal flat backed case. Now with MagSafe coming out, Pela wanted to take that into a consideration, because as I've mentioned previously, having a case that's not a MagSafe case on your phone, it works. Usually it'll stick through, but it is not nearly as good of a hold as you would hope. So what they do is they have a small little cutout here about where the MagSafe magnets are. And then there should be in the package here what they call a MagSafe module. And so this is the MagSafe module. And basically what it is it is a set of magnets. So very simple. It's just exactly shaped like the MagSafe magnets are. And you take this, you place it in that slot, and you put it onto your phone. So the magnets are gonna automatically align with the ones on the phone, and then it should enhance that magnetism so that the case is not inhibiting the MagSafe from functioning. So the first thing that I was really curious to see, because this MagSafe module is technically a $5 add-on, I wanted to see what happens if you get the case without it. So if you're on the fence, you're thinking about getting this case, but you don't really want the MagSafe module, let's see what it feels like, because there is that cutout in the back and it's definitely noticeable, which is a little bit weird. So basically what you have now is you've got an otherwise flat phone back here, but there's a divot. And so you might be able to see that kind of moving down. And so it's solid at the top and bottom. And then there's just this very, very noticeable soft spot basically in the middle. And that's right where your hand's gonna sit. I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. So it's definitely different. So, you know, comparatively, like I'm used to, I think everybody is used to feeling one solid surface on the back. And so now all of a sudden knowing that you're gonna have kind of this little dip in the middle is gonna take some getting used to. I feel like you'd get used to it, but it's gonna be a little weird at first. So would I recommend without it? Probably not, honestly, just based on that. Assuming that this makes it feel more natural. It might feel the same way with it. Let's find out. So the first question I also wanted to ask before I do that is, how is charging if I put it in the old case? So obviously this doesn't fit right. This is not what it's designed for. We're putting a 13 in an 11 case, but just if it didn't have this at all, I've got a MagSafe charger here, and I'm curious what the seal is like. So it lines itself up, it is charging. I gotta make sure it's actually on there. I mean, it's grabbing and it holds it a little bit. You know, there's some resistance there, but it does come off pretty easily. So it would be usable without it. If they elected not to do this extra, it would be usable in the same way that many other cases are, but it's just not as good as one designed for MagSafe. So that was my first curiosity. So now let's actually apply this. So to apply this, there is a peel on the back. So there's a whole piece of plastic with these ring of magnets, and then there's a smaller piece of plastic on here. And so we're gonna peel this off like that, all right. And then now facing these magnets down onto the phone, it really grabbed that, wow. Yeah, so that's gonna lock right in place based on the magnets. And obviously you can pull this off at any time as that one kind of comes off. Interesting. So obviously you're not supposed to be taking it on and off, but you can see here the bottom two did rip right off of the plastic the first time I tried to move it. So if we snap that back in place, now it's missing its guide, so not ideal, but should still be fine. Okay, so we've got it all in place there. And now we will pop it into the case. This case is a little bit more rigid, which I think is really more to do with the new form factor of the iPhone than anything else. So the iPhone 13 with the rounded, the squared off edges, you need to have a little bit more structure than the iPhone 11. With the rounded nature of it, it could kind of hold on a little bit easier. In this case, it needs to, so that it doesn't kind of flap, it has to be a little bit more rigid. And so it is more of like a clip in as I'm putting it on. You can actually kind of hear it. So compared to this one, which was just a little bit softer, a little bit more malleable and kind of just pushed in. Okay, so now that those magnets are in place, there's definitely still a divot. You can actually kind of feel the ring on there. So I mean, it's not perfect, but it's not bad. So now let's see how dramatic it changes the ability for this. So that's the grab. Honestly, it's not as good as I expected. It feels almost the same as that. It feels like it grabs better, but it doesn't hold better. So that's very interesting. So let's play around a little bit. If we take this back off, and now I'm really messing with it because I got to get these off somehow. Let's try and stick these back on here because they do have a little bit of glue. So obviously baseline onto the phone. I need to tug very hard to get that to move. Like that, it's on there when you're talking about the straight to the phone. Now I'm gonna try, we already tried old case with no MagSafe module in it. Let's try new case with no MagSafe module. Interesting. You know what I think it is? Because this case, it feels a little thicker. I think they had to make the material a little bit thicker in order to make this thinner piece still be durable enough to stand up to wear and tear, and then to put the magnets underneath. So all of a sudden now, if I don't have that there, there's an air gap plus this thin material that's almost as thick as this, which I think together you're fighting against the material itself and that gap of having to pull the material down. So I think this is actually worse without the MagSafe module with that cutout than it was on there. Very interesting. It makes total sense. But now I'm just wondering, why make it at all? Why not just stick with the old version and avoid the frustration? But I guess that's my take. I take one last look at it. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly sufficient. You know, it's, for the way I use my MagSafe, I'm usually just trying to get it on there. So it's lining it up and like, it's grabbing it. It's not gonna come off just with nothing. But it's not as good as I expected. I have to say I expected more. But that's okay. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you're looking for, can you use it? Is the case going to be not completely unusable in the MagSafe functionality, that is? And in that case, it meets that requirement. But I think I had some higher expectations, didn't quite get there. So overall, let's talk about just these cases in general. As I mentioned before, I think that the waste of plastic from phone cases is insane. There's all sorts of stats to back that up. Just think about your own life, then multiply that by your immediate family, then multiply that by your extended family. And everybody's got these smartphones now. Most people have had numerous over the course of their life, and it adds up like crazy. You add in then the fashionable nature of people wanting to change them out and always having different ones and getting different patterns or different things for different seasons or whatever. All of that just creates tons and tons of waste. And then the final kicker is here's 2 generations of phones and they're not compatible. This case is totally still usable, but not with this phone. And that's a problem that the industry needs to fix, because despite the fact that, yes, you want everybody to know that you have the new phone, that's why they put the cameras diagonally so that you can clearly show everyone as you hold your phone like this that you have the latest version, even though the cameras are pretty much the same as what you've got in this iPhone 11. But now it's easy to tell looking at it which one is new and which one is old. And I'm sure that camera design is going to keep changing just to keep outpacing it and keep making people want the next one. And so it's really frustrating because you easily could have done that. Maybe I'm overestimating, but you easily could have done that and kept the same form factor. You didn't need to change the size of the camera bump. You didn't need to change the dimensions of the phone. So that's just a little bit frustrating for me. Luckily, 2.5 years ago, I invested in a case that was compostable. And so I feel a little bit less guilty about the fact now that I have a new phone that is going to use a new case and that this one is ultimately going to get disposed of. So I'm probably going to send it back to Pela, let them take care of composting this. And composting, I feel like I've said it a million different ways this whole video. I apologize. You can tell me that I don't know how to talk down in the comments. It's all good. So yeah, I mean, overall, I've been very happy with the Pela cases. I think I had a little bit too high of an expectation with what the MagSafe module was going to be able to do. If I were to do it again, would I spend the extra $5? I think I would, just because of how bad it is without it, because I mentioned of that little gap there. So I think if you're looking at one of these, go ahead, spend the $5, get the MagSafe module and toss it in there to get that little extra added connection. And yeah, definitely take a look at Pela. The cases are not the cheapest, but keep in mind what you're investing in. You're investing in the environment and sustainability. So you're gonna have to pay a bit of a premium for that. There's a lot of technology, I'm sure, that goes into making this. It's made with vegetables and all sorts of different natural materials and fibers and things like that. And so that takes R&D and that takes time. This case itself goes regular retail for $59.95. I managed to get it on sale for $34.95, so nearly half price. And I don't even remember, I didn't notice I was getting such a good deal at the time. And then I even had another discount on top of that to bring it down to, in my pocket, at $36. And so for that, I think that it's hard to beat that. I mean, you can go on Amazon and buy a dirt cheap case, but unlike those, this one will actually turn to dirt. See what I did there? So give Pela a look for your next case, because I know you're gonna need one because your new phone is gonna require it. And yeah, let me know down in the comments if you've had one of these or if you're gonna get one of these. I hope more people do because the planet needs it. So thank you so much for watching. As always, if you enjoy what you see, remember that the likes are always free and the subs don't cost anything either. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.